A prestigious hotel manager fires a young black employee on her first day, dismissing her with cruel assumptions about her qualifications. Moments later, the CEO arrives for a surprise inspection, and the fired employee is revealed to be his daughter, working undercover to expose discrimination in his company. The Grand Meridian Hotel lobby gleamed under crystal chandeliers, marble floors reflecting gold light. Maya Harrison stood beside the concierge desk, her burgundy uniform pressed perfectly, her hands clasped in front of her. She'd been an employee for exactly 4 hours. Victoria Sterling's heels clicked across the floor like gunshots. The general manager carried a manila folder, her expression carved from ice. Guests in the lobby glanced up, sensing confrontation. "Miss Harrison," Victoria's voice carried deliberately. "A word here." Maya's stomach dropped. Other employees froze at their stations. Victoria didn't gesture toward an office or quiet corner. She stopped 3 feet away in full view of everyone. "I've reviewed your performance." Victoria opened the folder with theatrical slowness. "It's unacceptable." "But Maya started. "You've been here 4 hours. Victoria's smile was sharp. "That's 4 hours too many. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately." A guest gasped softly. Maya felt heat flood her face. She'd expected difficulty, maybe discrimination, but not this. Not fired before lunch on her first day. "I followed every protocol," Maya said quietly. "Did you?" Victoria's eyebrow arched. "Because I'm wondering how someone with your background got hired in the first place." The pause before background hung like poison in the air. Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket. Once, twice, 3 times, insistent. She didn't move. Victoria held out her hand. "So your badge, now." 3 weeks earlier, Maya had sat across from her father in his corner office overlooking the Chicago skyline. Marcus Harrison, CEO of Harrison Hotel Group, had looked older than his 56 years that afternoon. The complaints folder sat between them like evidence at a crime scene. "Grand Meridian again," Marcus said heavily. "3rd anonymous complaint this year. All describing the same thing: discrimination, hostile environment, targeted terminations." Maya picked up the folder. She'd grown up in these hotels, spent summers working guest services, knew every department. But she'd been the boss's daughter. People treated her differently. She'd never seen what these complaints described. "Let me go undercover," she said. Marcus looked at his daughter. Maya had his determination, her mother's fierce sense of justice. She'd graduated top of her class from Cornell's hotel school, could have taken any corporate position. Instead, she wanted the truth. "You'll be treated like any new hire," Marcus warned. "No protection, no special treatment. If Sterling is as bad as these complaints suggest, she'll come for you too. That's what I'm counting on." Maya met his eyes. "We need evidence, Dad, real evidence." "I can get it." Marcus had agreed with one condition. He'd schedule a surprise inspection for Maya's 2nd week. If things got dangerous before then, she'd pull out immediately. Maya had accepted, believing she understood what she was walking into. She'd read about discrimination, studied the statistics, written papers on workplace bias. She thought she was prepared. She wasn't. The Grand Meridian Hotel rose 30 stories above Michigan Avenue, a monument to luxury. Maya had chosen it specifically because the complaints came from here, because Victoria Sterling's name appeared in every anonymous letter. If discrimination existed in her father's empire, it lived here behind the polished brass and velvet ropes. Maya had applied under her mother's maiden name. Harrison was too recognizable. She'd submitted a standard resume, listed her degree without mentioning Cornell specifically, and waited. The interview had been cold, perfunctory. Victoria had barely looked at her, but she'd been hired. And now she was here, wearing the uniform, ready to see the truth. Maya's first morning started at 6 a.m. She arrived 30 minutes early. Pressed uniform, polished shoes, determination carried like armor. The employee entrance led through a stark hallway, fluorescent lights humming overhead. No marble here, no chandeliers. You're the new girl. A Latina woman in housekeeping uniform smiled tiredly. I'm Rosa, been here 6 years. Maya, nice to meet you. Advice? Rosa's smile faded. Keep your head down around Sterling. Don't give her reasons. Before Maya could ask what that meant, Victoria appeared from the manager's office. Her gaze swept over Maya, lingering with something between suspicion and disdain. You're early. Victoria made it sound like an accusation, eager to prove yourself. Just punctual, ma'am. We'll see. Victoria handed her a training packet. Front desk today. Watch, learn, don't speak unless spoken to. The morning passed in careful silence. Maya shadowed Thomas, a veteran desk clerk who moved with efficient grace. She learned the computer system, memorized room categories, practiced the smile that guests expected. Thomas was patient, encouraging. Then came the incident with Mrs. Patterson's luggage. The elderly guest had 3 bags. Thomas asked Maya to have them sent to room 2847. Maya called for a bellhop, repeated the room number clearly. But somewhere in translation, the bags went to 2874. Mrs. Patterson called down, irritated but not angry. Thomas apologized, corrected the error. Victoria materialized like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Who took that call? Her voice cut through the lobby's murmur. I did, ma'am, Maya said. Though you cost us time, embarrassed this hotel, and inconvenienced a valued guest. Victoria stepped closer. Her perfume was expensive, suffocating. How exactly did you get hired? Did you lie on your application? Have someone pull strings? Maya's throat tightened. She felt other employees watching, guests pretending not to listen. Victoria's implication was clear, ugly, unmistakable. It was an honest mistake, Thomas interjected quietly. First day easily fixed. I wasn't speaking to you. Victoria didn't look at Thomas. Her eyes stayed locked on Maya. I'm asking her how someone so clearly unqualified ended up at my front desk. The lobby seemed to hold its breath. Maya's hands trembled. She'd expected bias, but not this naked, this public. Victoria wanted her humiliated. Wanted her to know she didn't belong. I'll do better, Maya managed. Victoria smiled. It was worse than her anger. We'll see about that. The employee break room smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. Maya sat on a plastic chair, her hands wrapped around a paper cup she wasn't drinking from. Her reflection stared back from the microwave's dark glass. Young, shaken, angry, Thomas appeared in the doorway. Don't let her get to you. Does she treat everyone like that? His silence was answer enough. Thomas glanced toward the hallway, then sat across from her. 3 people fired in 6 months. All of them looked like you and me. All for reasons that didn't quite add up. Maya's pulse quickened. This was what her father's complaints had described. This was the pattern she'd come to confirm. But hearing it, feeling it, living inside it, was different than reading anonymous letters in a corporate office. Why doesn't anyone report her? Maya asked. To who? Sterling runs this hotel. Her boss is 2 states away. Human Resources listens to her. Thomas stood. We need these jobs. We have families, rent, bills, so we keep our heads down and hope we're not next. After he left, Maya sat in the fluorescent silence. Her phone sat on the table, her father's number 1 tap away. She could end this now, reveal everything. Watch Victoria's career evaporate. Simple, safe, easy, but that wouldn't prove anything. That wouldn't create the airtight case her father needed to clean house, to ensure this never happened again. One manager fired without evidence would just mean another manager hired. Same attitudes, different face. Maya thought about her college roommate Aisha, who'd quit 3 jobs because of managers like Victoria. About the statistics she'd studied that suddenly felt like people, like pain. About privilege, and how it meant never having to wonder if you'd been judged by your skin before your skills. She picked up her phone. Not to call her father, to document everything, starting now. Maya had grown up behind velvet ropes and marble columns. Her earliest memory was of her father lifting her onto a luggage cart, racing through the Chicago flagship's empty ballroom, while her mother laughed. Hotels were playgrounds, magic kingdoms where her family name opened every door. She'd worked summers in high school, but always with an invisible shield. Employees knew who she was. Managers smiled. Mistakes were learning opportunities, never crises. She'd thought she understood the business. Cornell had started cracking that illusion. Her roommate Aisha had worked her way through school, juggling 3 jobs, every shift a tightrope walk of invisible rules and unspoken biases. One manager who followed her in the stockroom, another who scheduled her for every holiday, a third who called her aggressive when she asked for earned raises. "You don't get it," Aisha had said once, not unkindly. "Your name is on buildings. Mine's on a time card that can disappear whenever someone decides they don't like my face." Maya had wanted to argue, to defend her understanding, but she'd stayed quiet, listening instead. Aisha's stories had planted seeds that grew into questions. What happened in her father's hotels when she wasn't watching? Who got promoted? Who got fired? Whose complaints disappeared into HR's black hole? Senior year, Maya had written her thesis on workplace discrimination in hospitality. The research had been damning. Patterns of bias in hiring, promotion, termination. Hotels with diversity at entry level, but white management at the top. Employees who reported discrimination facing retaliation, quiet terminations, blacklisting across the industry. She'd presented her findings to her father. Marcus had listened with a CEO's careful expression, neither defensive nor dismissive. When she finished, he'd opened his own file folder. Anonymous complaints, dozens of them, spanning 5 years across his hotel chain. "I've been trying to address this," Marcus had said quietly. "But without concrete evidence, it's their word against managers I've worked with for decades. Some of these managers built their hotels from nothing. They swear they're fair. And I want to believe them." "But you don't," Maya said. "I don't know what to believe." "That's the problem." Her father had looked tired, torn between loyalty and justice. "If discrimination exists in my company, I need to root it out. But I can't fire people based on anonymous letters and statistics." That's when Maya had proposed going undercover. Her father had resisted. Too dangerous, too personal, too many ways it could backfire. But Maya had persisted. She spoke his language, evidence, documentation, airtight cases that would stand up in court if necessary. Finally, he'd agreed. Grand Meridian first, the hotel with the most complaints. If she found evidence, they'd expand the investigation. If not, they'd look elsewhere. Maya had prepared like she was going to war. She'd practiced staying quiet when she wanted to argue, swallowing pride, documenting everything. She'd thought she was ready for the reality of discrimination, but knowledge wasn't experience. Reading about it wasn't living it. And standing in that lobby while Victoria, Sterling dismantled her dignity in front of strangers, taught Maya the difference between understanding injustice and surviving it. Maya's, 4th day at the Grand Meridian started like the others. Early arrival. Careful movements, Victoria's watchful eyes. But that afternoon, opportunity arrived in the form of a computer malfunction. The reservation system crashed, and Victoria left to handle an angry guest on the 20th floor. Thomas was at lunch. Maya was alone at the front desk. And the manager's office door stood slightly open. Her heart hammered. This was stupid, dangerous, completely against every protocol. But she thought about Thomas's careful words, about the 3 fired employees he'd mentioned, about patterns that needed proof. She glanced at the elevator. Still no one. She slipped into the office. Victoria's filing cabinets were unlocked, arrogant in their accessibility. Maya found personnel files within seconds. Her hands shook as she flipped through them. 3 names. 3 termination reports. All dated within the last 6 months. Janelle Morrison. Fired for consistent lateness despite time cards showing perfect punctuality. Marcus Chen. terminated for unprofessional behavior without a single documented warning. David Okonkwo, released for poor performance after receiving Employee of the Month 2 months prior. All three were people of color. All three terminations signed by Victoria Sterling. All three files contained glowing performance reviews, right up until sudden vague complaints appeared the week before termination. Maya photographed everything with trembling hands. The patterns were unmistakable, the fabrication obvious. This wasn't bias hiding behind plausible deniability. This was systematic, intentional discrimination, with a paper trail designed to look legitimate. She was replacing the last file when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Victoria's voice, speaking to someone about supplier contracts. Getting closer. Maya's breath caught. She shoved the drawer closed, but it stuck. She pushed harder. It clicked shut just as Victoria's shadow appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing in my office?" Victoria's voice was dangerously soft. Maya's mind went blank, then snapped into focus. She held up a pen from the desk. "You asked me to bring you a pen earlier." The one at the front desk ran out. Victoria stared at her for 3 endless seconds. "I said no such thing. Maybe I misheard. Sorry." Maya moved toward the door, forcing her legs steady. Victoria didn't move aside immediately. She stood in the doorway, examining Maya's face like she could read guilt written there. Then slowly she stepped back. "Don't miss here again," Victoria said. Maya walked back to the front desk, her phone heavy in her pocket with its cargo of photographed evidence. Her hands still trembled slightly. But beneath the fear, something harder crystallized. She had proof now. Proof that would hold up. Proof her father could act on. But Victoria was watching her now with new intensity, new suspicion. Maya had maybe a week left before Victoria found a reason to fire her too. The inspection was scheduled for 10 days out. Too long. She needed to accelerate the timeline. That evening, Maya sent her father a single text. "Have evidence. Need you here sooner. Will explain." His reply came within minutes. "Arriving Friday morning. Unannounced inspection. Be ready 3 days." Maya had 3 days to survive Victoria's scrutiny, while the manager circled like a shark, sensing blood in the water. Friday morning arrived with threatening clouds, and Maya's nerves stretched thin. Her father was scheduled to arrive at 11. She just needed to make it 3 more hours. Victoria had been watching her like a hawk circling prey, finding fault in every interaction, every movement. At 9:30, Maya made her move. She approached the assistant manager, Derek Chen, in the staff corridor. He was younger than Victoria, had worked his way up from housekeeping. Maybe he'd listen. "I need to report concerns about termination procedures," Maya said quietly. Derek's expression shuttered immediately. "What concerns?" "There's a pattern in recent firings. Discriminatory pattern. I have documentation." "Stop." Derek glanced toward Victoria's office. "You've been here less than a week. You don't know how things work. Miss Sterling has been with Harrison Hotel Group for 15 years. Her record is impeccable. But if you just look at the files—" "I'm not looking at anything." Derek's voice dropped to a whisper. "And if you're smart, you'll drop this. Sterling doesn't respond well to accusations. Neither does corporate. You think you're the first person to complain. You won't be the last person shown the door." He walked away, leaving Maya in the fluorescent hallway. The message was clear. Victoria's power extended beyond herself. People were afraid. The corruption wasn't just one manager. It was a system that protected her. Maya felt hope crack, then harden into something sharper. Fine. She'd tried the proper channels. Now she'd wait for her father and let the truth explode in Victoria's face. She returned to the front desk. Thomas gave her a questioning look. She shook her head slightly. His expression said he understood. Another attempt, another failure. The morning crawled forward. Guests checked out, checked in. The routine continued. But Victoria kept appearing, watching, waiting. At 10:45 she approached the desk with that dangerous smile. "Miss Harrison, my office now." Maya's stomach plummeted. 20 minutes. Her father would be here in 20 minutes. But Victoria's expression said she'd run out of time. Victoria's office felt smaller than before, the walls pressing in. The manager closed the door with deliberate care, then turned with a folder in her hands. Maya recognized it, her employment file. "I've been reviewing your performance," Victoria began. "And I've made a decision. The inspection is today," Maya said, abandoning caution. "Corporate will be here any minute." Victoria's smile widened. "I know, which is why we're handling this now before they arrive. Can't have problematic employees present during an important inspection, can we?" The trap snapped shut. Victoria had known about the inspection, had moved faster to eliminate Maya before corporate eyes arrived. Maya had been outmaneuvered. "You're firing me. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Poor performance, inability to follow basic instructions concerning attitude toward management." Victoria recited the lies smoothly. "I'll walk you out personally. Can't have you lingering during the inspection." Maya's phone sat in her locker, her evidence locked away. She had nothing. No way to contact her father. No way to stop this. Victoria was going to escort her out the door minutes before Marcus Harrison arrived. "Let's go." Victoria opened the office door. "The lobby." "I want witnesses that this was handled professionally." They walked through the hallways, Victoria's hand hovering near Maya's elbow like she might run. Other employees averted their eyes. Thomas stood at the front desk, his expression stricken. The lobby stretched ahead, marble and gold, the place where Maya's investigation would end in public humiliation. Victoria raised her voice, ensuring everyone could hear. "Miss Harrison's employment has been terminated. She'll be escorted from the premises immediately." Guests looked up. Employees froze. Maya stood in the center of the lobby, her uniform suddenly feeling like a costume, her face burning with manufactured shame. Victoria was performing, establishing her narrative before corporate arrived. "Your badge." Victoria held out her hand. Maya unclipped it slowly, the metal warm from her body. She placed it in Victoria's palm. The manager smiled with vicious satisfaction. "Security will see you out," Victoria said. "And Miss Harrison? Don't bother applying to any other Harrison Hotel Group properties. I'll make sure your file reflects your difficulties." Maya's phone buzzed in her pocket, once, twice urgent and insistent. She didn't move. Couldn't move. The lobby felt like a stage, and she was playing the role Victoria had written for her. Then the elevator chimed. The brass doors slid open with hydraulic whisper. Marcus Harrison stepped out, flanked by 3 board members in dark suits. His eyes swept the lobby, taking in the frozen tableau. His daughter standing in the center with Victoria Sterling beside her. Victoria's confident smile faltered for just a heartbeat. Then she recovered, straightening her shoulders. She didn't recognize Maya. Why would she? Just another fired employee, another problem handled efficiently. "Mr. Harrison," Victoria said warmly, moving forward, "welcome to the Grand Meridian. We weren't expecting you until—" "I prefer surprise inspections," Marcus said quietly. His gaze moved to Maya, held for one loaded second, then returned to Victoria. They revealed the truth about how a property actually operates. The lobby existed in suspended animation. Maya stood motionless, her terminated badge still warm in Victoria's hand. Her father's eyes revealed nothing. No recognition, no rescue, no acknowledgement that the young woman being escorted out was his daughter. He was playing his part perfectly. Maya felt the full weight of isolation crash down. She'd gambled everything on this moment, and now it was happening wrong. Victoria had fired her too soon. The evidence sat in Maya's locker, useless. Her father couldn't acknowledge her without compromising the entire investigation. She was alone, truly alone. No privilege could save her now, no connections, no safety net. This was what every other fired employee had felt. Powerless, humiliated, dismissed. Victoria turned back to Maya, emboldened by the CEO's apparent disinterest. "Security is waiting, Miss Harrison. Don't make this more difficult. Thomas gripped the edge of the front desk, his knuckles white. Rosa watched from the housekeeping station, her expression matching the grief Maya felt building in her chest. They'd hoped she might be different, might break the pattern, but the pattern was breaking her instead. Maya's hand drifted toward her pocket, toward her phone with its cargo of photographed evidence. But what could she do? Shout that she was the CEO's daughter? Show pictures of files she'd accessed without authorization? Victoria would spin it as desperation, fabrication, a fired employee lashing out. The silence stretched. Marcus Harrison still didn't move, didn't speak. The board members watched with the careful neutrality of executives, observing a property's operations. Maya felt something inside her crack. Not her determination, but her certainty that truth always won. Sometimes power just won. Sometimes injustice walked away clean. Sometimes the pattern continued forever. Then her father spoke. Actually, I'd like to understand this situation better. Ms. Sterling, explain why you're terminating an employee during a corporate inspection. Victoria's confidence flickered. It's a routine termination, sir. Performance issues. Nothing that would concern corporate. Everything concerns me, Marcus said. Especially terminations. What was the employee's name? Maya Harrison, Victoria said, still not understanding. No relation to you, obviously. The lobby held its breath. Marcus Harrison's expression remained perfectly neutral. Harrison. Interesting surname. And her offense? Victoria sensed danger now, but couldn't identify its source. She fell back on her prepared lies, the same fabrications that had worked for 3 previous terminations. Poor performance, inappropriate attitude toward management, inability to follow basic protocols. I have documentation. Show me, Marcus said. Victoria hesitated. The files were in her office, but suddenly she seemed reluctant to produce them. Maya recognized the calculation. Victoria's documentation was thin, designed to satisfy cursory HR review, not CEO scrutiny. The files are comprehensive, Victoria said instead. I can have them sent to corporate for review. I'm here now. I'll review them now. Marcus's voice carried steel beneath silk. Board members, please accompany me to the manager's office. Miss Sterling, lead the way. Victoria's face paled. She glanced at Maya, at the security guard hovering nearby. At the elevator, trapped. Of course, Mr. Harrison, right this way. As the group moved toward the hallway, Marcus paused beside Maya. His hand brushed her shoulder, a father's touch disguised as a CEO steadying himself. Don't leave, he said quietly. I'll want to speak with you. Victoria overheard. Her head snapped around, confusion crossing her features. Why would the CEO want to speak with a fired employee? The pieces weren't connecting for her yet, but doubt was creeping in. Maya stood alone in the lobby again, but something had shifted. Thomas approached the desk's edge. What just happened? I don't know yet, Maya lied, but I think he's going to look at those personnel files. Rosa appeared from the housekeeping station, the ones for Janelle and Marcus and David. Maya nodded. I found them. I documented everything. The patterns, the fabrications, all of it. Understanding dawned on Thomas's face. Oh, you weren't just a regular employee. I was, Maya said. I am. I just also happen to have access to people who can do something about what I found. In Victoria's office, the review was happening. Maya imagined her father opening those filing cabinets, pulling out the termination reports she'd photographed, seeing the pattern she'd documented. The board members leaning in, their expressions hardening as the evidence mounted. 10 minutes passed. 15. The lobby buzzed with whispered speculation. Guests pretended to read newspapers while watching the hallway. Employees gathered in small clusters, hope and fear mixing in equal measure. Finally, the office door opened. Marcus emerged first, his expression carved from granite. Behind him, the board members wore matching looks of controlled fury. Victoria trailed last. Her earlier confidence completely evaporated. Miss Harrison, Marcus said formally. Would you please join us in the conference room? I have questions about your employment here. Maya walked forward. She passed Victoria, whose eyes had gone wide with dawning, terrible realization. The manager's gaze darted between Maya and Marcus, noting the jaw structure they shared, the same determined walk, the identical way they held their shoulders. "No," Victoria breathed. "You're not—" "Conference room," Marcus repeated. "Now." The conference room overlooked Michigan Avenue, glass windows framing the city. Maya sat at the long table, her father at the head, board members arranged like judges. Victoria stood, excluded from the chairs, forced to remain standing like she'd made so many employees stand. "State your full name for the record," Marcus said. "Maya Elizabeth Harrison." Maya's voice was steady now. "Daughter of Marcus Harrison, CEO of Harrison Hotel Group. I've been working undercover at this property for 6 days to investigate complaints of systematic discrimination." Victoria swayed slightly. "You lied on your application." "I used my mother's maiden name," Maya corrected. "Everything else was accurate. My degree, my experience, my qualifications. The same qualifications you dismissed the moment you saw my face. That's not— I never—" Victoria's protests collapsed before they formed. Marcus opened a folder. "I've reviewed the termination files for Janelle Morrison, Marcus Chen, and David Okonkwo. I've compared them to their performance reviews. I've noted the patterns. Would you care to explain these discrepancies, Ms. Sterling?" "Those were legitimate terminations based on documented performance issues," Victoria said. But her voice had lost its authority. Janelle Morrison was fired for chronic lateness. Maya pulled out her phone, displayed the photographs she'd taken. But her time cards show perfect punctuality for 8 months. When did the lateness allegedly occur? Victoria's mouth opened, closed. "I don't have to explain myself to a subordinate who violated company policy by accessing confidential files." "You'll explain yourself to me," Marcus cut in. "And to the board. And potentially to federal investigators, if these patterns constitute what I believe they constitute." Board member Patricia Chen leaned forward. She was the company's chief legal counsel, and her expression promised consequences. "Ms. Sterling, we're prepared to conduct a full audit of every termination you've authorized in the past 5 years. We'll interview every former employee. We'll examine every complaint, every warning, every performance review. Do you understand what we're likely to find?" The truth sat in the room like a living thing. Victoria understood. Everyone understood. The evidence was overwhelming, the pattern undeniable. She'd been systematically firing employees of color using fabricated documentation, assuming no one would look closely enough to notice. "I built this hotel," Victoria said desperately. 15 years of service, highest occupancy rates in the region. Guest satisfaction scores through the roof. You can't destroy my career over a few terminated employees who couldn't meet our standards." "Our standards include basic human decency," Marcus said quietly. "They include equal treatment. They include not judging employees by the color of their skin before their quality of work." "I never—" Victoria tried again. "You did." Maya stood, facing the woman who'd humiliated her 6 days ago. "You judged me the moment I walked in. You questioned how I got hired, implied I'd lied or cheated. You set me up to fail with that luggage incident, then used it as proof I didn't belong. And you've done it to others. Janelle, Marcus, David. How many more before them?" Silence answered her. Victoria had no defense because the truth was indefensible. Marcus Harrison closed the folder. "Victoria Sterling, your employment is terminated effective immediately. You'll be escorted from the premises. Security will supervise while you collect personal belongings. Your dismissal will be noted in your permanent file as termination for cause. Human Resources will contact you regarding severance, or lack thereof, depending on legal review." Victoria's face drained of remaining color. "You can't do this." "I'll sue. I'll fight this." "Please do," Patricia Chen said coldly. "Discovery will be fascinating. We have documentation. witness testimony and a clear pattern of discriminatory behavior. I welcome the opportunity to present this evidence in open court. The fight drained from Victoria like air from a punctured tire. She looked at Maya one last time, and Maya saw it. The moment when the manager understood she'd been outplayed by someone she'd dismissed as unworthy of respect. "Get out," Marcus said. Now, security appeared at the door. Victoria walked between them, her 15-year career ending in the same hallway where she'd destroyed others' careers. The conference room door closed behind her with final damning silence. 2 hours later, Maya stood in the lobby wearing her uniform still. Her father had asked her to stay to help with what came next. The board had departed to begin the audit Victoria had dreaded. But Marcus remained, determined to address the damage immediately. He'd called an all-staff meeting in the ballroom. Employees filtered in slowly. Front desk staff, housekeeping, maintenance, kitchen workers. People who'd survived Victoria's regime by keeping their heads down, their opinions silent. They gathered in uncertain clusters, whispering speculation. Maya saw Thomas and Rosa near the back. She caught their eyes, smiled. They'd been right to be careful, right to be afraid, but they'd also been strong enough to survive. Marcus stepped to the front, Maya beside him. "Thank you for gathering on short notice. I'm Marcus Harrison, CEO. Some of you know I own this company. What you may not know is that my daughter Maya has been working here undercover for the past week, investigating allegations of discrimination and wrongful termination." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Employees stared at Maya with new understanding. She'd been one of them, truly one of them, experiencing what they experienced. "Victoria Sterling has been terminated," Marcus continued. "We've uncovered systematic discrimination in hiring, treatment, and termination practices. Over the next weeks, we'll be conducting a complete audit of this property's management. But I wanted to start by saying something that should have been said long ago. I'm sorry." The apology hung in the air. CEOs didn't typically apologize to line staff. But Marcus Harrison wasn't typical. And Maya had reminded him why he'd built this company in the first place, to create places where people were valued. "We're offering immediate reinstatement to Janelle Morrison, Marcus Chen and David Okonkwo, with full back pay and benefits. We're establishing an independent reporting system for complaints, one that bypasses property management and goes directly to corporate. And we're implementing mandatory bias training for all leadership, starting with me." Rosa raised her hand tentatively. "What about retaliation? If we report problems, how do we know we won't be next?" "Fair question," Patricia Chen said, stepping forward. She'd stayed for this meeting specifically. "I'm establishing a legal protection policy. Any employee who reports discrimination in good faith receives automatic protection. Termination following a complaint triggers immediate corporate investigation. We're making retaliation more dangerous for managers than discrimination is for employees." Maya watched faces in the crowd transform, suspicion giving way to fragile hope. Change wouldn't happen overnight. Trust, once broken, required time to rebuild. But this was a start. A real start. Thomas approached afterward. "You could have told me who you were. Would it have changed anything?" Maya asked. "Would you have spoken differently, acted differently?" He considered. "Probably, yeah. That's why I couldn't tell you. I needed to see the truth, not a performance for the boss's daughter." Maya met his eyes. "Thank you. For the advice, the honesty, the kindness, even when you thought I was nobody." "You were never nobody," Thomas said. "None of us are." "That was Sterling's mistake." Rosa joined them, tears in her eyes. "Janelle's coming back? Really?" "Really," Maya confirmed. "And we're doing better by all of you. No more fear. No more silence. No more managers who think their power puts them above basic decency." Her father appeared, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Ready to go home?" Maya looked around the lobby one last time. The marble gleamed, the chandeliers sparkled. The building stood as beautiful as ever. But now she saw what existed beneath the polish, the people who made luxury possible, who deserved respect as much as any guest. "Yeah," she said. "I'm ready." 1 month later, Maya returned to the Grand Meridian. Not undercover this time, but as herself, Maya Harrison, new Director of Employee Relations for Harrison Hotel Group. Her father had created the position specifically for her, recognizing that she understood something he'd missed from his executive suite. The lobby looked the same. But Thomas stood at the front desk, wearing an assistant manager's badge. Rosa led the housekeeping team with new authority and fair pay. Janelle Morrison worked concierge, her smile genuine now, unforced. The building had the same bones, but its soul had changed. Maya paused by the spot where Victoria had fired her, where she'd stood humiliated and alone. The marble remembered nothing. Only people remembered. Only people could choose to do better. Her father joined her, following her gaze. "Thinking about that day?" "Thinking about privilege," Maya said. "I got to leave that humiliation behind. I knew rescue was coming. But Janelle, Marcus, David, they walked out of here with no safety net, no vindication, no next chapter. Just shame they didn't earn and job loss they didn't deserve." "You changed that," Marcus said. "We changed it together. But there are other Grand Meridians, other Victorias, other employees suffering right now in hotels across the country. This was one battle, not the war." Marcus nodded slowly. "So we keep fighting. Hotel by hotel, complaint by complaint, until the culture shifts." Maya smiled. Her phone buzzed. Another employee complaint from a different property, routed to her new department. Someone else who'd found the courage to speak up, trusting that this time someone would listen. She thought about the distance between boardroom promises and lobby realities, about how easy it was to claim values without living them. Power didn't corrupt everyone, but it insulated everyone, built walls between intention and impact. Real change required witnesses. It required people willing to step down from privilege, to see truth instead of assumptions, to risk comfort for justice. Victoria Sterling had been fired, but Victoria Sterling had also been created by systems that rewarded her behavior, by silence that protected her power, by distance that hid her cruelty from consequence. Maya's job now was closing that distance, being the witness, making sure no employee ever stood alone in a lobby again, terminated without cause, dismissed without dignity. She turned toward the elevator, her father beside her. The building rose above them, 30 stories of luxury built on the labor of people who deserved better than they'd been given. They would do better. She would make sure of it, because privilege meant nothing if you didn't use it to destroy the systems that created it.